They do it because they want to embarrass people, because they did it with everyone. They want to embarrass you. They want to humiliate. Yeah. But as my friend, who is also an attorney, said that they gave you the N-word treatment.
Bruh. Miss me with this annoying victim race hoax stuff that it's because he's black. It has nothing to do with being black. Guys, up first, we're going to check in with Don Lemon, who, of course, calls himself a journalist, but is really a political commentator and activist, and has kind of gone off the rails since his CNN days. Not that those were great, but it's always funny watching these people who we thought were bad when they were like attached to a mainstream network go independent and then get worse. And then you realize these networks were probably keeping them in check the whole time. And so Don Lemon, since going independent, he's become really insufferable. I've quoted some of his most like toxic and unhinged commentary on the show before, but then of course he was involved in this protest / illegal disruption of a church, and now he's been hit with charges. We went over all that at the time, but now he's become even more of a like media celebrity on the left, and because of course, right? Because as soon as the Trump administration was trying to prosecute him, it was always going to make him like their new hero. Anyway, his latest commentary suggests that he might consider running for office, or even, I can't even say this seriously, Don Lemon for president. Let's listen to a conversation he had on a podcast where he mused about this possibility, and of course, immediately made it about victimhood and identity. Because what else are you to do as a left-wing journalist, right? That's really the only card in the playbook. Let's listen.
Do you think you might ever run for office? Oh, boy. That is a long pause, Don.
God.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah. And then what do you think of what happens in your head when you hear it?
First, I hear, I don't want to ruin my life. Why would I invite that sort of even more criticism and whatever? Why would I want to ruin my life with people digging into, everything about me and campaign ads, putting everything that I've ever said that's deemed controversial?
Okay, I'll pause here and say a couple things. One is I hear that all the time. Sure, Jan. People are just constantly coming up to me and telling me how they want me to be president so badly, or they want me to run for Senate. Are the people in the room with us who are demanding Don Lemon? I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's some like woke white women who would queen out over this and be like, yes, we love Donnie. But I really don't think there is, in fact, widespread demand. Although I actually do understand his point that like, part of the reason I would probably never run for office is the same thing. It's like you really are subjected to horrific treatment and slander and lies and every aspect of your life being turned upside down and misconstrued. So I think it is unfortunate that we have created that incentive structure where people don't necessarily want to run for office. But I will say that in the case of Don Lemon, I personally am not sure we're missing out on the next best thing.
I don't even think people would care about that. So I think they would know. Right. I've never said that I was going to grab anybody by the pussy. Right. So
that doesn't surprise me, Don, but
I've never said that a woman had blood coming out of her wherever. But
yes.
Also, I'm not a white man.
Oh my God. But it's not about being a white man, because he just had to do that. Donald Trump, not Don Lemon, is unique. They call him Teflon Don for a reason. Whether you like it or not, just like it doesn't stick to him. Everything he's said over the years, he just gets away with it. And I don't truly understand it, but it is the way that it is. But you look at like Graham Plattner, who's a Democratic Senate candidate right now in Maine. All his like old Reddit posts where he said controversial things are dredged up and used against him, even though he is a white man, a white straight man. It's not about identity. It's just Donald Trump is an exception, but these things are used to haunt people. Like politicians still are haunted by their past comments, with the exception of Donald Trump, including Republicans and Democrats, including white men and non-white men. It's not a white man thing. You could actually argue, and I wouldn't find this far-fetched, that it's not really fair that Trump gets away with it, but like these similar comments would be devastating for every other politician. but it's not because he's a white man. It's because he's a unique political phenomenon. And even white men still face, other than Donald Trump specifically, still face the same thing. So it's just, this is part of why I think, maybe he could win some like deep blue seat in New York or something where it's just a bunch of white guilt lived out people who would vote for him or something. But this brand of toxic identity obsessed politics, I really don't think has a widespread constituency, even among Democrats, like at large in the country. Maybe a primary electorate, maybe a deep blue seat, sure, still. But like, I don't know. I've just rarely ever heard Don Lemon say something interesting or insightful. I struggle to ever think of a time. And yet I've constantly heard him invoke his identity and weaponize victimhood just at every possible opportunity. As we will get to multiple more examples of that just in today's episode. Let's keep going.
White man. And the rules are different for me. And so just like the rules, I believe, sadly, are different for women. They're different for Hillary Clinton, for Nikki Haley, which was one of the reasons what I meant to say. They're different for Kamala Harris. They're different for Alex Wagner. And white men get away with way more than, women or black people or any minority. And so I think the rules are different, but I don't know, why would I invite that criticism? And, the people my mentors will say, why do you want to take a pay cut? But it's not about money for me. So do I ever think about it? Yes. Could it happen? Yeah, it could happen.
Well, here's hoping it does not. That opportunity does not, in fact, present itself, because I think Don Lemon would be like Jasmine Crockett 2.0. He'd be like the annoying gay version of Jasmine Crockett in Congress. But I do actually want to seriously discuss what he says about how it's different for white men and black women, and women are like Nikki Haley or Hillary Clinton are held to a different standard. There's actually research on this that shows that in general elections, women candidates do equally as well as male candidates. So I'm obviously there. I think there are unique things that do happen to women in politics that are like different from what happened to men. There's more attention placed on their appearance and their wardrobe. And I mean, we can talk about all that. I'm not sitting here saying there's no issues whatsoever, but the idea of some persistent electoral disadvantage for female candidates, I don't think is borne out statistically or with evidence. And then in terms of like, they get away with less. Also, though, he's just ignoring the fact that, for example, he cites Kamala Harris as an example. And while I'm sure there are unique challenges that you face as a black person and a woman as a candidate, there's also huge, enormous advantages because of affirmative action, DEI style politics. I mean, Kamala Harris literally was selected as a vice president, in part, according to Joe Biden. He specifically said, I'm only going to pick a woman. So she got the job in part because of these boxes that he is portraying. And Biden said he's specifically considering a woman of color as well. So she partially got the job because of, like, it's a fair statement to say that if Kamala Harris had been a white male senator with her exact record and views and work experience from California, she would not have been selected as Joe Biden's vice presidential nominee. I can say that with about 100% certainty by referencing the statements of Joe Biden, where he said as much. And yet you're citing her as an example that like black women don't get ahead because they're black women in politics. That just doesn't hit the way that you think it hits, Don. And all of this is just kind of ridiculous because it's like Don Lemon would only, if Don Lemon was a straight white man, he never would have had the jobs and opportunities that he'd had at CNN. And he wouldn't have a chance in hell of becoming elected to anything. Like he has rode the tokenistic wave because he doesn't really have talent or knowledge. And like watching his broadcasts over the years has made that clear. He knows how to go viral, I guess. He knows how to troll, but that's about it. And I certainly think the identity stuff has helped him. So it's just ironic to me when they play the victim Olympics like this, yet have personally, and the examples they cite, all benefited far more from their identity than they faced hurdles or disadvantages in their careers from it, like just obviously. And then some of the victim stuff just strains credulity. I mean, This guy is a multi-millionaire, like liberal, celebrity, and elite. And yet he really thinks he's like Rosa Parks because of his legal controversy that we discussed at the time, and I don't believe the charges against him are going to stick, and I don't support the charges against him. If you got to go back and watch my videos on it before you write paragraphs. I explain my views in depth. Anyway, he acts as if he's like uniquely persecuted because of his blackness. When listen, it's a political thing, right? They want to go after him because he's a anti-Trump, like woke journalist, and they want to make an example out of him. And what he was involved with at that church is not because he's black, but he just can't help but play the victim card, so much so that he's calling the treatment he received in his prosecution the N-word treatment. I'm not kidding. Here's a clip from him on The View. Let's listen.
But here's the thing. When I heard Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi and others talking about this, I got an attorney.
Right.
And my attorney emailed them and said, hey, if you guys are serious, let's do this right.
Yeah.
He'll turn himself in.
Yeah.
They call it self-report.
They didn't want to do that.
Didn't respond.
No.
I think they did it once. He did it once, maybe twice, but they did not respond.
Yeah.
And they sent, I don't know, 12, 15, maybe 20
People.
agents.
Right.
It's a waste of taxpayer
The more
dollars.
expensive
Because
option.
And
the more theatrical.
all they had to do was, hey, Mr. Lemon, turn yourself in. Okay, where do I go? What's the address? I'll be there in however many minutes.
And federal prosecutors do that, and the Justice Department does that to send a message and to intimidate and to harass. And it's
Can I tell
unfortunate,
you
my
something?
friend, that you went through that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Sonny, I've been leaning on Sonny for counsel just as a friend. No legal stuff, but just as a friend.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. They do it because they want to embarrass people, because they did it with everyone. They want to embarrass
Correct.
you.
It's
They
called a
want to
perp
humiliate.
walk.
Yeah. Yeah. But as my friend, who is also an attorney, said that they gave you the N-word treatment.
Bruh. All right. So if you don't follow what he's saying here, essentially when you're charged with federal crimes like this, there's two options. They can either come arrest you, which is what they'll do in the cases like of serious crimes, like violent crimes and other stuff, or they'll give you the opportunity to self-report and turn yourself in. And typically with like white collar crimes or like these kinds of infractions, that opportunity would be afforded to someone. And I actually think it should have been to Don Lemon. I agree that it was clearly theater and like politically motivated that they sent like 24 officers to go arrest him, and rather than have them turn himself in. But miss me with this annoying victim race hoax stuff that it's because he's black. It has nothing to do with being black and them being racist and wanting to treat you like a N-word. It has to do with the fact that you're their political opponent and they want to make a show out of it. If Don Lemon was the exact same resistance lived out journalist that but white, they would do the exact same thing. And if he was a black journalist who loved Trump and was on Fox News, they would invite him to the Oval Office and give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. It's not about race. And I'm certainly not saying the Trump administration and Trump himself and the things he says and all this stuff about race is like beyond reproach. But I just hate when they make stuff that has nothing to do with race about race. I promise you, the Trump administration has and will, with other political ops that they want to go after, treat them similarly who are white, because it's about partisanship and it's about politics and it's about revenge. And the annoying thing about this is that there's already such a legitimate ground to critique that, because that's really not how the Department of Justice and the federal government is supposed to operate. It's supposed to be independent and nonpartisan and apolitical. Yeah, you can certainly argue it wasn't under Biden and other stuff, but it's not supposed to be as transparently vindictive and political as it is under Trump right now. But by making it like a race hoax, you're discrediting the legitimate pushback and complaints just to play the victim and invoke your identity. And it's like giving me flashback. I cannot believe they're still doing this crap, but I find it to be so obnoxious and so distasteful and so perfectly emblematic of everything that's wrong with this particular brand of resistance, woke, identity politics, lived out journalism that Don Lemon embodies.